Our greatest source of suffering is the lies that we tell ourselves. It's one of my favorite quotes. Our greatest source of suffering is the lies that we tell ourselves. And one of the reasons that I love this quote is that because it really clearly shows, first of all, that we all do it. We all lie to ourselves, but also that the lies we tell ourselves is the source of our suffering. And as long as we allow ourselves to lie to ourselves and without facing it, then we will continue suffering. And that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love personal development. Not just personal development in the sense that we look at how we feel and how we think and we identify how is this not aligned with the person that I want to be and how do I change it, but we get really, really painfully honest with ourselves. That's where we have some very true, real, raw personal development. We all lie to ourselves. And the reason that it causes suffering is because we're accepting things that we shouldn't accept. We're allowing things to happen in our lives that we're not okay with deep down, but we still allow it to continue because it's easier to let things continue than it is to face it head on and get really, really honest and having those difficult conversations with ourselves and with others. It's much easier to just let things happen the way that they've always been than it is to force a change. And I don't actually like the word force. I would rather say we stay so true to ourselves and our values and what our integrity and what we think is right. And we speak up when other people aren't in alignment with how we need to be treated in order to accept the continuance of that relationship, friendship, familyship. It can be a boss, it can be a colleague. It's very often much easier to just allow things to happen than it is to have that difficult conversation. It can also be about our own habits and behaviors. Someone once asked me why I was vegan, and I started getting into the whole, animal abuse situation, and I don't like the fact that something that used to be alive is now dead on my plate and I'm supposed to eat it. That's not to say that I expect everyone else to have the same stance when it comes to eating meat. It's just I don't want to sit with that. It doesn't feel right to me, so I don't eat those things. And her reaction was like, why do you even think about that? Why would you put yourself through that of having to deal with the fact that there is a dead animal on your plate? Why not just eat it? Like, why would you even get into that space, into that headspace? And I was so baffled because how can you not? How can you not take a stance on what you're doing? And if it's so misaligned with your values and your integrity and what you believe is right or wrong, how can you not act accordingly? How can you not make those decisions? And she just prefers to have a simple life where she doesn't have to deal with those things, and that's totally fine. But the fact that you don't want to face difficult things and act accordingly is hindering your personal development. So if growth and personal development are important to you, you need to at least face it, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be about food, but it would be about what do you want in life and what are you currently doing that's not aligned with this life that you want? What are the things that you're accepting from yourself and others? What are the things that you know need to change, but you're not taking action on it because it's too hard, it's too difficult, it's too painful? It's challenging the status quo. And we tend to like the status quo because it's comfortable and easy. It's about preferring the familiar hell to the unknown heaven. So when it comes to the lies we tell ourselves being the greatest source of our suffering, I would recommend an exercise where you sit down and get really, really honest with yourself about where is the discrepancy between the person I want to be and the person that I am. And how do you close that gap? What would it take? And many of us are going to want to brush away some of the things because, that's not really what this is about. That is exactly where you need to put extra focus. Exactly when you feel a calling to be avoidant of something is when you should be looking at it. So in general, also, what are the lies that you're telling yourself? What are you telling yourself that you're okay with, that deep down you know you're not okay with? From yourself and from others. How are other people treating you where it doesn't feel right? And you've just allowed yourself to accept it. What are situations where you find yourself doing things even though deep down it feels wrong? What are cases where the energy has friction, it's irritated because what you're doing or what you're accepting doesn't feel right? Energy never lies. The energy never lies. So if something feels wrong, if deep down you can sense that this doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel good, and what we sometimes tend to do is just override it with our thoughts. But that initial punch in your stomach, right? That hunch, that feeling that, this isn't good, and then you have to talk yourself into it. You shouldn't have to talk yourself into it. Now, of course, there's a difference. Does that feeling in your stomach come from an old trauma that needs to be processed? Does it come from an idea that you have in your head about why people do what they do? Does it come from an old programming that is judging what is happening on behalf of you and then filtering those feelings to trigger something in you? That's a very different situation, and that's why we need personal development and personal growth in order to be able to tell those apart. We need to be able to tell apart when is the feeling started with a thought about the situation, and when is the thought coming in to override the feeling that came from the beginning. So whatever feels right in your initial reaction before any thought enters your head, when you're getting that feeling that this isn't right, this doesn't feel good, and you always have to just keep telling yourself this is okay, then probably that's not okay. What are the lies that you're telling yourself about what is okay? What are the lies that you're telling yourself about what you should be accepting? What are the lies that you're telling yourself about what life should look like? What are the lies that you're telling yourself that are driven by guilt and shame? What are the things that you accept that you shouldn't accept from yourself and from others? So this is a great way to start the week. I hope you are ready this week to get really, really honest with yourselves and really get this raw, right? Just allowing yourself to feel the stuff. We are so programmed to just use our heads to go and tell ourselves things about the situations, about what we're going through. We are allowing ourselves to fall under the pressure of what other people think of us, what other people think we should be doing. And it just creates such a discrepancy between the life that you have and the life that you want. We often tell ourselves that we're not deserving of the life that we want, or that we can't have it, or that what we truly want, what comes from the inside, is wrong because it's not normal. I'd like for you to question what normal is and why that is normal, what it came from. Because when it comes from a previous generation that grew up in a world that looks very different than it does today, should you really be taking that advice? Honestly, when it comes to how you create your life, you shouldn't take any advice that was applicable 30 years ago, unless it's things like follow your bliss, follow your heart. I know that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that say, oh, you shouldn't follow your heart because it has nothing to do with how to create a successful business, for example. But right now, if you look around, people are creating beautiful businesses, successful businesses, sourced from what that person really loves, what they really want to share, what they really want to do. So I trust that as long as it's sourced from something that comes from within you, you'll find ways of matching it to the marketplace. So thank you for today. I hope you're having a great week ahead, and let me know if you're getting some honest truths through, if you've identified some important lies that you've been telling yourself. If you were in any way triggered, I would love to know, because that's probably where you're going to find your truth. So have a beautiful day.